Welcome back to the studio. I am Sherman. Who do we have once again? We have Howard Ankin from Ankin Law. Thank you so much for being here once again, Howard.
Thanks, Sherman. Glad to be here.
That is very festive, your suit that you have on here today for the holiday season.
You know, it gets to be 40 degrees. You gotta suit up.
Well, I'm assuming, you have to be ready at a second's notice to go to court, so you can't be wearing an evergreen tree costume and then roll into court and go, okay, let's go.
I got to tell you, it seems like I thought as I got older, there'd be less court. And it seems like the more my career goes along, it seems like there's more court for me than there ever was before. It's like always a suit now.
I'm making up for you. I have my sweater on that says, I don't know, Margot, from Christmas Vacation. Or I should say, Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase. But there's a lot of holiday-type questions that people have sent in. And matter of fact, I have one here, Howard. And it says here, what happens if you're out holiday shopping and you get hit by a car or a bus? What should someone do immediately, and what rights do they have? I know that sounds crazy, but it's happened before.
You know, you always got to make sure that you're aware that there's not going to be a second accident after your first accident. So if you have some awareness to it, be aware of your surroundings. The next thing is you always need to make sure that you're going to get emergency medical care and treatment if that's what you need. Now, in the mix of all this, if you are able to get the name and phone number of a witness, or you're able to get your cell phone out and you're able to take a picture, eventually when we go to have liability questions, it's always better to be able to document the case, but we don't want to document the case at the expense of somebody getting a worse injury or not taking care of their injury.
So a good possibility that they could be paying for your Christmas gifts. There's a possibility if you get, so don't run out in front of a car to get your Christmas gifts paid for.
You know, you're kind of joking, but sometimes the importance of getting somebody the right Christmas gift, and it just happens to be the last one of those toys, or they purposely went to the store to buy that sweater or so on and so forth. And so a lot of times, people will give up their own personal health to make sure that they get that right gift. And it's not uncommon where the defense of the case then becomes, so after the accident, you actually then stood in line for 40 minutes and waited to pay for the item, and then you went to the emergency room. It does come out kind of hokey sometimes.
Sure.
And, we have to explain to people really how great my client is, that they're standing there with bones broken and bleeding all over the place because they needed to make sure that their daughter, had to have this gift on the holidays, and they were going to make sure that they were going to have it no matter what, which we could spin and make it great. But it usually means that's why I got to wear the suit, Sherm, because, they're not settling that case with the insurance company. That's when I got to get in there and do the stuff that I do.
What do you mean? Insurance companies don't settle right away? What? What are you kidding?
I don't know what's happening, by the way, but this is just my theme for the holiday season. It seemed like post-COVID, it was surprising, but I think what was happening is there wasn't as many auto accidents that were happening. There wasn't as many claims. And I think at that time, the insurance companies were cleaning up their books and cases settled. Now, it's spun around the other way. And I'm finding that look, if somebody wants to settle their case and they're willing to take less, these cases are settling. But if you want to, get the compensation that you really deserve and you want to maximize your recovery, I really feel like now we need to be more pushing these cases more than ever, and they're dragging out because of it.
Well, here's another holiday one for you, Howard Ankin. This very, very understandable, especially here in the city, because I've had this almost happen so many times. There's ice or snow on the ground in front of a store or a building, and if someone slips and falls, can they sue, and who is responsible?
So that's what we need to figure out. That's when people call us. I got a team of investigators, and sometimes we're going out to see why that ice formed. So the defense of the case is either going to be that it's a natural accumulation, meaning hey, it snowed and, God made it that way, or B, that there was notice that somebody would have fallen. We need to prove what's happening. So like we're looking for the leaky gutter. A lot of times we're looking to see that there's a heating system that's like reheating up ice, and it's melting down, and then it's reforming again and forming that ice cube. Like we're looking at the ground and we're looking to see how that like chopped up sidewalk that should have been fixed for years, how all the water is forming into that hole and like an ice cube tray and causing ice to be formed there, and that's why people are falling. So when you're calling the lawyer, we're there to, one, explain this is what the law is. We're there to listen to what somebody tells us happened to them, and then we're using our professional skills and all of our resources, including our investigators, to go out and look to see where this liability is coming from and make it that somebody's not just saying, hey, you should have seen where you were walking, or, hey, that's a natural accumulation and you're not entitled to anything. That's why people need me.
Natural accumulation. That means God's not liable.
Yes.
God's
yes,
not he's not paying out on that at all.
Yes. And people, for religious reasons and other things during the holidays, people are very apt to want to have what we call a lawsuit. Okay. And for the lawyer, we don't want to have a lawsuit either. Okay. We would like to be able to settle the case with an insurance company. And that's why we want to show that this is the liability, and we want to show this is what the damages are. So there are some people that whatever it takes, they're willing to do. And then I have other clients that limit me when they retain me to say, I'm only hiring you for the purposes of settlement only. And I say, okay, I'll get you the best settlement I can, but it might not be the best recovery that I've ever recovered for somebody with a similar case like that, because we're not going into litigation. But anyways, any which way that people want us, that's why injury law made personal is the tagline of our office. We try to gear our legal services towards the specific needs of our clients.
Well, here's another one here, Howard Ankin. It's perfect for this time of year. Falls near construction sites. If someone falls outside or near a construction site, who is liable and what steps should they take?
So again, we need to figure out on a construction site, usually you would have a general contractor, and then a general contractor hires subcontractors. And so it's the general contractor's obligation to make sure that the job site remains safe for everybody. But you could also have subcontractors that do something wrong, and they could be liable. So we need to understand what's happening with that construction site to understand why somebody's not hurt. Specifically with anything that involves construction, time is money. So the more time that we have to put into something to make it safe, the more money it costs. But when we don't put our time into making something safe, that's when somebody could be hurt, especially people from the public that have nothing to do with that job site. So again, you could see the construction is going on and it could be open and obvious. And so a lot of times we need to explain away why this construction site needed to remain safe and why somebody who got hurt on that construction site couldn't make sure that they could avail themselves of not being hurt there.
Howard, it's awesome that you come in here. You don't have very far to travel. You're a Chicago guy. We're in the Prudential building here in Chicago. And it's cool to be affiliated with all of the other people that you're affiliated with, Chris Chelios and all of these other people that are tied to Ankin Law. So I just wanted to thank you, especially around the holidays. Thank you so much for being a part of this place and us hanging out with you.
And likewise, thank you for always being with me, and thank you for supporting me. I got to tell you, for me, part of doing this to beginning was I just wanted to have a zest for life, and part of being a lawyer and helping people in my community, that was just resonated with me as far as my law career. And then being able to get my name out with other people, being able to come to somebody like you, like if somebody said, hey, I'm looking to buy a shirt, or I need the right dentist, or like what's the best pizza to go to, people would say, who do I do that with? And knowing that, like, people know that when you say Howard Ankin's a good lawyer, okay, your name means a lot in this community. And when you say that, that really makes me feel good. And that helps, me work on the best cases that I could possibly work on. More importantly for me today, though, more than ever, is that law in the world has really become national. And a lot of people that are pretending to be me from around the country, they're running advertisements like they practice law or like they're working here in Chicago.
I was going to bring that up because I like us here at the station. I mean, we are a Chicago radio station. We're not anywhere else. You're from Chicago. You deal with Chicago. So that makes you different, and you're a local guy, unlike a lot of others.
And when you're local, you know the local landscape. There's not one law board that relates to my practice that I'm not either the president of or on the executive council of or will ascend to the presidency of. I know Chicago. I know what's happening in the courthouse in Chicago. I know how to help people here in Chicago.
No matter what any other billboard on 294 says.
And what I feel that I bring for people, I have a staff of 100 people where my law firm is across the street from where the courthouse is. Like, we're able to advocate and give people the resources that they need. And instead, there are people on billboards, nobody knows who they are. Like, I was just at a conference for a board that I'm on in Washington, D.C., where I had to fly out for the day and fly back. And people were saying, like, who's this lawyer? Okay. And nobody even knows who they are. They don't even know where the courthouse is. So there's a lot of people that are pretending to have the reputation that I have. So most important and why I'm here today is when I could be with you, Sherman, you're asking me questions about like, what happens in this situation? How does it work? And I'm in the studio with you. Nobody has this, okay? And likewise, I don't think nobody else is going to be able to do for people what I do for them.
There's a lot of other places, let's be honest, that you could be at right now, and you're here in Chicago at the Drive. Why do you choose the Drive here in Chicago, Howard Ankin?
That's a great question. And I do have to say is I do pay my $9.95 a month or whatever it is to have like my other than broadcast radio, because there are some Politico shows that I do like, the people that have certain insight that I like listening to. But I always find out that I'm punching out of that and coming back to Chicago local radio. Now, I may be able to listen to like classic rock anywhere. I could have classic rock like on my own, my own feed.
You could do it off your phone. We get it.
Right. This is what's important about local radio, okay? If you are not listening to local radio, you're like in a fishbowl, okay? When I'm driving around Chicago, I get a good feeling that like I'm here, I'm present, I'm in my community, I'm part of something. And then I get you on the radio and you come on and you start telling me about what's happening local in Chicago and you start giving me certain insight and you've been on the radio for years. And I just get that connection to my community that just makes me feel so good. And that's why, like, I hope that, like, I can transcend that feel good that people get from being like a local person in the Chicagoland area. And then they're listening and they hear about Howard Ankin, a lawyer that's trying to do the right thing in the Chicago community. And I hope that resonates. And I just want to give that feel good back to everybody. But anyways, that's what I get from local radio. And you cannot get that national radio, even if you like the genre, getting that feel good feeling, or like getting some, popular DJ that may be like in New York or LA or whatever. Eventually it's flat. That connection that everybody needs now more than ever. Okay. Local radio provides that. And when there's all these naysayers that say, hey, the old way is going out, I think the old way is going to actually be the most prominent way, because for the mental health of everybody in the world, they need local radio and they need that connection.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth. Thank you so much, Howard Ankin. I mean, You say that, about being in Chicago, and then you feel like you're in Chicago, and that's what we try to do. I mean, we try to make you feel like you're a part of, almost like the joke, what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like when it's like you hanging out with your friends, and then you tell a joke, but then if you were outside that clique, nobody would get it. That's what it's like in the city of Chicago. Like when you say something about the Kennedy or the Eisenhower, if you were out of town, they would have no idea you're talking about. Like, why are you talking about a president? They're like, no, there's more to it than just that. And the fact that you're a part of all of this, and you're with all of us because you are us. We're all Chicago, and we're all in it together.
You know, it just reminds me of something. I'm telling you a story that's like 35 years old that like will totally date me. But like when I was in college, I remember meeting this woman, okay? And she says to me, like, where are you from? And I'm like, Chicago. And we're like talking about like going home for like Thanksgiving. And somebody asked me, they're like, oh, how are you getting back? And I started like using like the Kennedy and like streets, and, because there's no Waze or anything like that in those years.
Yeah.
And she like turns to me and says, oh, those are all the famous streets. And where does she hear it from? Because
she heard a news report.
From, 4 hours from Chicago, the town that she's from, they got like the local broadcast of like what was happening with traffic in Chicago, and those were the famous streets.
Like, oh, cool! You drive those? How awesome!
Yeah, but right,
yeah.
But that's Chicago. That's what connects us. That's what keeps us together.
You're able to come in here, Howard, and we can just, go back and forth and have a good time. And I, got the holidays coming up. I have a certain memory of mine of the best gift I had when I was a kid or received. What is yours, by the way, before we get to mine?
Oh, don't talk about, I got to sit on a couch for this one, Sherm.
No, I'm not a therapist. I'm just, tell me about your mother, Howard.
Yes.
No.
I got to tell you, for whatever reason, I was very into like CB radio, like ham radio. I was like all excited about that in my youth. Why? I don't know. Okay. But anyways, so like I was able to like listen to like CB ham radio on a radio that was given to me when I was a young kid. And I just remember being so excited, listening to like truckers talking to each other.
You're like, I'm going to get all the lingo down.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine was simple. Mine was a Nintendo, of all things. It was a Nintendo. I got it when I was probably 11, 12 years old, and it was the best thing. I'm like, oh my, I finally got it. And then it taught me how to throw a remote control from the Nintendo as fast as possible. I should be in the MLB on anger of throwing a Nintendo controller at the television. So at least you didn't have that. So look at it actually worked out better for you. Look at
I guess with any age, there's always like great games and great things that you do on the holiday. I just think like if you're talking about like special things for the holiday, it seems like every year you would never play like the game of Monopoly. It just takes like too long, and it's just like
everybody gets ticked off. Yeah. And the family right there over Boardwalk and Baltic.
Yeah. But sometimes, like if you could get like, a multitude of people that are playing, and people have partners, and, you're taking the several hours that it takes to play the game, and it never quite, it always, like, there's never a winner because it never quite ends, but it always just seems that that's just like such a great holiday gathering thing to do together.
The final one, Howard Ankin here, and this one actually is regarding the sweater that I'm wearing right now that says, I don't know, Margot, Christmas vacation. If someone gets blown up after lighting a cigarette, standing in front of a storm drain that's leaking sewer gas because Uncle Eddie emptied his chemical toilet from his RV, who is liable, Clark Griswold or Uncle Eddie?
Oh, I think Uncle Eddie for sure.
Uncle Eddie. Really? Okay. So Clark is in the clear. Even though it's his house, it's in front of his house. Uncle Eddie is the one emptying the chemical toilet. It's him.
It's a very cute question. So I'll just say to you, like in two ways. One, in all cases, we're looking at liability, we're looking at damages, and we're looking at the ability to pay. And if you're probably like blown up in an explosion, we're probably going to have two defendants in a case. It's not going to be one or the other. The other thing about this is, when we're talking about law, is something a proximate cause of somebody getting hurt, or is something a cause of fact of somebody getting hurt? And so the concept that like both of you and me are born, and then I went to law school, and then you became like a famous radio jockey for the last 20-something years, and now we're here today in your studio. What's the proximate cause of us being together? Talking about like people's legal rights today in your studio, or the fact that we're both born?
And we're both in Chicago.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be like a law school exam that people would be discussing, as to is it Griswold? Is it Uncle Eddie? In real life, you're probably bringing the case against each other. And then when you're getting into discovery, you're really finding out who knew what about like this problem that was going to happen.
Do you and other lawyers actually almost like litigate, go back and forth on made-up scenarios from movies like that? You could totally sue for that, or that person is liable. Like this instance of this movie right here. I know it's a baloney question. That's the whole point of it. But to have an actual intellectual, like going back and forth of who is liable is hilarious to me.
So yes and no. One fun thing about the lawyer is everybody has like their lawyer war stories. So everybody has like the story of like this client or this situation that happened, and they always have like, like they had this witness on the stand and they're cross-examining and cross-examining somebody and this happened. So like, yes to that. The other thing is, which is really another reason why people retain me, is that I have a good broad-based section of knowing a lot of lawyers. Like I'm on a lot of law boards. I'm, either the president or, on executive committees out of a lot of law things. And so a lot of times, like we spend a lot of time asking questions of other lawyers. What do you think about this fact pattern? And that question is, do you think it's Griswold? Do you think it's Uncle Eddie? I'm going to go through the entire holiday season, but instead of talking about a movie, I'll be at like a lawyer's holiday party and be like, okay, I got this case. It's coming up for trial in February, and these are the facts. And I got this other case that's coming up for trial in July, and I'm getting ready, and we're about to, we're about to take expert discovery, and like we'll talk about it. And that like lawyers make fun of other lawyers too. Some are blowhards, like, oh, I got millions for that one.
Yeah.
Okay. And then others are like, they're more serious. And, we get that information from each other.
If out of anything, I hope that we have somebody that's watching right now going to law school, and then they're actually going to debate this exact thing that we're talking about, Uncle Eddie or Clark Griswold, who is liable.
And I got to tell you, when you do go to law school, the law professors, they're cute like this. So you're all excitable that you're taking like your final exam and you got like a heavy question, but like the fact pattern that the teacher would write would be this exact fact pattern. And they would bring in, and it would be Uncle Eddie and Griswold, and this is what's happening. And you're writing this final exam that like you think your whole life rides on this grade, but like you're writing it under this fact pattern. And that's how law professors give their final exams in law school.
Thank you so much, Howard, for all that you do. Coming in here, you can find Howard, 312-6-million, number very easy to remember. And it's just a great guy. So thank you so much, Howard Ankin.
Thanks. I'm here to help if anybody needs me.